All right, so next we're going to focus on the curbing. So if I come over to my layers and I look down this layer list, I've got curb back, curb gutter, and curb line. So if I select those, I can see that not only do I have curbing, but I've got some other stuff that's on these layers as well. And so what I want to do is I want to separate this. Now I know that I have two different types of curbing on this project. I've got curb and gutter type, and I've got my basically 1B and 1A curb and gutter. And if we take a look at the site plan, and we can see here I've got 1B, and over here I got 1A, and that refers to these two different types of curb and gutter. By turning on those layers, I can see that they also have the sidewalk on a layer. So what I want to do is I want to clean this up for basically for stakeout. So if I tell True to go stake out the sidewalk, they know to turn on that layer sidewalk and they can stake out this data. So basically I'm going to clean up some of this CAD, and we can do this again multiple ways. One way is I could just simply come in here and do a crossing window. So basically by starting down here in the lower right, dragging my cursor up, crossing all these objects, you can see that I can select all those lines. And if I go to the properties, it's on this C layer. Now what I want to do is I want to start a new layering convention of moving stuff off of this convention into my stakeout convention to keep this simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to click new layer. And in the new layer name, I'm going to use an STK for a prefix with a dash so that then I can group all these into 2D stakeout. And I'm going to call this, we'll call it sidewalk. So I'm just going to sidewalk. Now you can use all caps, you can use uppercase, lowercase, it's up to you. I like to just use uppercase, lowercase. And for the sidewalk, we'll go ahead and make that a color that we can see. So we'll just set that to blue. Same thing as I like to give it a little thickness so that when I'm looking at it, I can tell the difference between what is in the original data versus mine. We want to protect it so that when we do the drawing cleanup, we don't lose any of these layers that we create. And I'm going to make a new group, and this new group is going to be called 2D stakeout. So 2D, or actually let's just call it stakeout. Now it could be 2D, it's up to you, but we'll just call it stakeout. All right. So then now that I have that layer and I have that group, I can hit close. And now I've got that on sidewalk. So when I tab, now you can see that I put that on the sidewalk layer. And I can do the same thing over here. I can select these lines, hold my control key down to select the ramp here. Come over here and make sure we pick up that end. And then from there, same thing is I can come in here. Now I'll show you a shortcut is if I go to layer and I just left click on the one that I've already assigned, you can see that it sets that layer. So then when I tab out of it and close it, now I've got all that on the sidewalk layer. So now I'm going to do the gutter. So same thing is I can come in here and just do a window selection around that, hold my control key down and select these guys. Now I'm missing these little gaps here. So I was going from lower left to upper, or lower right to upper left. Now if I go from upper left to lower right, holding my control key down, and I window in just those objects, it adds those and keeps the other ones, okay? And then up here, I'm just gonna hold my control key down while I left click, left click, left click, left click on that, and zoom in and left click on that, okay? Now I could do the same thing over here, but I'll start with this since I have it selected and I don't wanna mess up. I'm just gonna go to my layer here, go to new layer, and again, we're going to follow that same prefix of STK dash, and I'm going to go curb dash 1B. And I'm going to separate my 1B curb from my 1A curb, and we're going to make this red, and same thing, we'll go ahead and give it a thickness. So again, once you set this up, I mean, you may have your own layering convention that you want to use. That's great and recommended. But once you set up all these layers and we save this, we're going to be able to use this and we won't have to create this. We'll know that the next project we get that we're going to move this around. Now, the other project may not have a 1A and a 1B curb. It just may be curb. Then you just can go in and change the name or just basically keep this all on one layer. It's totally up to you. All right, so I'm going to close that. It's on 1B, and now I'm going to do that. So I can also use other tools like relayer. But in this case, it's just as simple for me to select these objects. You can see if I go from upper left to lower right, it windows. Then I hold my control key down and go from lower right to upper left. It does a crossing. And I can do the same thing in here. I just do a crossing. Hold my control key down this whole time. And I'm just selecting these objects. And then I want to come in here and I can do these as well. So again, if I hold my control key down, I can select these objects. Make sure I pick them all. Again, just continue to hold the control key down while I'm selecting. And I'm selecting all this 1B. And it's going to put this curb information all on that one layer. Same thing over here. I can select those. I'm going to unselect these. And I'm going to have to break this line, which I'll show you afterwards. So I'm going to come in here and we will go ahead and set this all on that layer there. So I made a mistake and I undid twice. I'm going to go back up and redo. And now I just need to reselect everything. So this is why sometimes it's nice to not have to, you probably best to do this a little bit at a time, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do these guys. So I'm going to tab and select those, and then I'll redo these other ones. Now, again, like I said, there is another command, and what I'm going to do is go F12. And so I hit F12. There's a command called relayer object. So if you start typing in relayer, there's this relayer objects command. And what I can do here is select the object. So if I pick those objects, I can just come on here and go down to that layer of 1B and click OK, and that will change those to those objects. Now if I select these again, or select these layers and just click relayer objects, okay, then it automatically relayers those. You can also go to the support tab, and under define shortcut commands, you can find that relayer command. So instead of going to the command pane, I can come down here to my relayer command. So relayer objects. And I can assign that to a object or to a shortcut. So if I make it Control 1 and hit close, I can close this. And now what I can do is simply select those objects and Control 1, and it automatically relayers those. So again, I can select these objects and I can Control 1, come down here, Control 1, and quickly relayer these objects to that layer. Now if I come in here, I need to break those, so I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to Control 1 on that one, Control 1 on that one, and now I need to break these lines. So I'm going to take this line, I'm going to right click, actually going to go to CAD, and I'm going to use the break command. So I'm going to select this object, and I'll come in here and break it there. I'm going to select this object, and I'm going to come in and break it there. Okay, so now I can come in and pick this line and this line, and Control 1, And now I've got all my 1B on one layer. Now to do the rest of these, for the A, if you do the Control 1, you can see it's not asking me for what layer I want it to go to. But if I don't have anything selected and I do Control 1, you can see that it brings up the relayer objects. Now again, that only works because I went to my support tab and I defined it as a shortcut. If you didn't do that, you'll have to hit F12 to bring up the relayer command. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new layer, just like I did with the B. And again, we could have defined this all at the same time. I'm going to go stake curve dash 1A. We're going to make this blue. And I'm going to come in here and same thing. We'll do 25. We'll protect it. And we will change that to stakeout. I'm going to hit close. Now I can select these lines. Again, holding my control key down. I don't want to select the fence line. I can go ahead and click OK. And now I've re-layered those. And then I can do the same thing. If I select and now do Control 1, you'll see that now because that layer that I just set is the current layer, it's maintaining those. So now I'm going to come in here and Control 1, Control 1, do the same thing here, Control 1, Control 1, and Control 1. And then over here, same idea. Let's pick up all of that, Control 1. Right. Now again, there's multiple ways. There's a polygon selection tool down here. There's different ways to select it. It's kind of just what you become comfortable and get in the habit of doing.